Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. He'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
the truth. First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Today, it's the 23rd of July, 2014. Our sun sign is in Leo. And our moon sign today is making a transition. Currently, we're in Gemini or moving to Cancer. So, we have a sun sign, Leo, which is a fire sign, and it's going to be there now for the next month. Okay, yeah, we went over what Leo was about yesterday. Leo is about the right useness of energy. It's about understanding that Kundalini energy that exists within us, and allowing it to channel through our chakras, which are all cleansed and cleared and energized and ready to allow that flow of energy to move through. And so over the course of this next month, we're going to be dealing with all of these ideas, these energetic ideas of Leo the Lion. So when you're out and about in the world, just pay attention. You know, a lot of times people say astrology doesn't work. Doesn't work. Well, they're not really looking at it correctly. So here's one way you could see for yourself how it works. We've now entered this phase, which is the time of Leo, the lion. It's a fire sign. So just understanding what this is all about, just kind of pay attention to the experiences you have in the world over the course of this next month. And see if you can begin to understand, because what astrology provides is a psychological understanding of things. And so it studies patterns and ways that things move. And so if you really pay attention and just understand the ideas of Leo for this particular month and just see what experiences, you will come to understand that, oh, okay, these things do make sense. And then as the next month comes along, and the previous month we dealt with and experiences that were very emotional based, and you probably met a lot of people in the world that were emotional, and you'll start to see how people are moved along by the tides of energy. And many people are just moved along by the tides of energy, not even aware of how they're being moved along, but they truly are. If you're aware of how they're being moved along or how the energy is moving, it allows you an opportunity to interact with it in a different way. And that is the benefit of it, to be able to interact differently with the energy around you. Okay? So we just had a moon phase. That moon is now enshrined with Aries, or Mars. Mars is the sign of severity, of real intense energy, passion, or war. Depends on how that energy is channeled and utilized. Here we had Gemini, or actually shows void, of course, so that in between as we're moving through a trine between our moon signs. So we're getting a little bit of that Gemini, a little bit of that Cancer coming in there, all affecting Mars, okay? Our feelings, our mental energies, but in a good, positive way. So finding a way to use our energy, having a lot of energy is also part of the mix as well. All right, over here, numerology. Today we're at the number 1. Here's how we've arrived at the number 1. 7 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, 0, 1, 4 brings us to a 19. 1 plus 9 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. 1 is our number for today. The Magician, the beginning, magnetic tone. All of those things all apply. So we're going to look at the tree of life to see where everything is today. We've got our sun sign right here, Leo, where we're going to be for a while, balancing out mercy and severity. We've got our moon sign, which is going from Gemini right here to Cancer. Out here, both cases dealing with the understanding and the discipline of understanding, because Saturn is involved with this. In both cases, we've been experiencing this moon sign of Gemini leading us to the heart here, but now we've got the moon sign, which is going from understanding into the severity, in which case there's that opportunity to get a little warlike if the warrior doesn't fully understand how to use that energy properly, how to fully understand how to allow that energy to flow through the heart. Okay, these are connected right here. Leo and Cancer are connected in severity, so it's important to understand that we use this, our conscious mind, where Leo is, to be able to channel that energy across, balance it with mercy. So instead of being in a war-like situation, we find ourselves at the peace that we wish to have. Expansion, we want to expand mercy. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's in mercy, expansion, expand what this lesson is all about. Today we're going to look at the Magician. And again, we're going to relook at these over and over. I'm just going to randomly pick different ones to look at associated with either our numerology or our sun sign or moon sign, because repetition is important. The more that you see this and look at these, the more you're going to understand. Okay? So the Magician is number one, the first of the cards. But there is also a card before it, the Fool. So the question is, which one is first, the Magician or the Fool? Good question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The Fool is actually the thing that ties everything together. It's a zero. It could be at the very end of the last card, or it could be at the very beginning before the first card. Either way, it's between the last and the first. It's the Fool. It's the reciprocal energy. It's the super consciousness. So it goes from the super conscious. Now we're going to move into the Magician, the first energy, focusing the energy. Pattern on the trestle board is I am the primal will to good, which eternally creates and sustains the universe. Okay, so it acknowledges the fact that we are channels for energy. The title refers to man, or conscious mind, as a director of the force by which he transforms his consciousness and reaches the stage known to occultists as initiation. The number one, which is geometrically symbolized by a point, means concentration, attention, a limiting of the field of activity. This refers to the practice which is absolutely indispensable to all aspirants for truth. Until you have learned how to concentrate, you cannot perform the great work. Study this key carefully. It will help you to learn to concentrate, for its symbolism was created to that end. The roses of the arbor symbolize desire, and it has been wisely said that desire is the motivation of evolution. The central figure, by his posture, clearly indicates that he draws power from above. This is a central point of the occult doctrine, because you cannot even begin to use the subtler forces of nature until you realize that you do nothing of yourself, but simply act as a channel through which the life force expresses itself. His uplifted hand is a symbol of his ability to direct the natural forces with which he works. Also of the Hermetic axiom, that which is above is as that which is below. The horizontal 8 represents dominion, strength, and control, and is also the mathematical sign of infinity. The Magician's left hand points to the ground in the gesture of concentration. The black hair bound with the white band symbolize the limitation of ignorance by knowledge. The red rose is action and desire. The white undergarment symbolizes wisdom. It's encircled with the serpent of eternity. The table is the field of attention, which is the workbench of the Magician. The implements are the wand, cup, sword, pentacle. They represent fire, water, air, earth, also will, imagination, action, and physical embodiment. The garden is the subconscious mind, which is cultivated by the acts of attention of the self-conscious mind. From the garden spring all of the powers of subconsciousness. Lilies, because they are white and six-petaled, represent the abstract perception of truth, as well as the cosmic laws and principles by which the universe is sustained. And the Hebrew letter Beth, and it means house. House of God, house of spirit as it flows through. Okay? That is our numerology for today, but also The Magician, The New Beginning, help us to understand a little bit more about that. Current moon phase is we're almost to that new moon, 10% to go. The sky for tonight, here's an image of the moon with the Pleiades up and to the right. Orion just a little bit below it to the left, Betelgeuse underneath. Says to us, as dawn brightens on Thursday morning the 24th, spot Venus low in the east, northeast, with the waning crescent moon to its right and Mercury still to its lower left as shown here. Okay. The Mayan Oracle, we are at a 6-tone day, which is called the rhythmic tone. Today's the World Bridger, guided by the World Bridger. So today is a rhythmic World Bridger, guided by the World Bridger. World Bridger teaches us the lessons of life and death. We're still in the wave spell of the theme of the dragon, which is birth. So we're learning about the life-death aspect of what it means to be born into the world. Skywalkers are like-minded energy. Warrior is our challenge for today. And the eagle is our vision, is our hidden power. The phrase is I organize in order to equalize a balancing opportunity. I seal the store of death with the rhythmic tone of equality. I am guided by my own power doubled. Space weather, current solar wind is 326.7. Planetary K index is quiet. Between a 1 and a 2, we have a little bit of a corona hole here, but still no notification of anything coming our way from there. M-class and X-class flare still down to 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity low as well. High latitudes, we have a 20. It's the highest, 1510. And over on the Jewish calendar, today is the 25th of Tammuz. 25 Tammuz. Daily thought for today. He doesn't need you to report on the dirt in his world. He put it there, and not because he has an interest in it. He sent you there to search out the jewels hidden in the mud, clean them, polish them until they shine. And when you bring them to him, the angels make a crown of them for him, saying, look what your children have made you from the mud. There you go. That gets us started. UFO News is up next. So let's get to it.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right. Thank you very much, Dirk. First story. Megadeth drummer Nick Menza records UFO in his yard. July 14th. There's our object in question right there. Pretty cool looking shot of the moon. Studio City, California. This is a sighting by the famous Megadeth drummer Nick Menza. An amazing drummer. It looks like he is turning into a UFO research very soon. Awesome catch and some amazing UFO orbs. Nick Menza states, returned to hangar. I was standing in my front yard with my 2 boys, and this is what we saw. Not sure what it is, but it is totally awesome. Alright, good capture, Nick. Here we have Aurora, Texas, and we have some strange signs on the streets. UFO signs seen around Aurora, Texas, warning of UFO abductions. Well, by the sign, it would appear the only one needs to worry is the cow, right? East Aurora. Some strange signs are popping up in East Aurora, and nobody seems to know where they came from. The signs depict UFOs beaming up livestock. People have been spotting the signs since the beginning of the summer, but no one has caught who is hanging them. I don't know who it is, or maybe the aliens put them up. Who knows, says Bill Bernardi. Alien signs have been popping up in the village, including the one in front of Bernardi's home on Gypsy Lane. I was looking out for crop circles. I was checking to make sure the gravitational field around here is the same as everywhere else, but I'm keeping my eye open, he joked. See, they just appeared out of nowhere, just like those flags up on the Brooklyn Bridge the other day. Nobody knows how they got there. They're just there. Alright, government takes first major steps towards UFO disclosure. In an astonishing development, NASA and Library of Congress will be holding a symposium in Washington, D.C., September 18th through 20th, 2014, to discuss the broad implications of discovering life in the universe. The main purpose of the event is described as preparing for discovery, a rational approach of finding microbial, complex, or intelligent life beyond Earth. This appears to be the first major event sponsored by the United States government to bring mankind one large step closer to the knowledge that we are not alone in the universe. Oddly enough, it is open to the public. Okay, here's the information. It says another stated goal of the event. The main goal of the symposium is then described as exploring how we prepare to face new knowledge that may challenge our very conceptions of life and our place in the universe. From anthropologist to astrophysicist to the Vatican to SETI, the list of attendees reads like a who's who for UFO and extraterrestrial disclosure. And we go through here, and it's all the list of who's going to be there. Stephen Dick will be the host of this special event. He is the 2013 and 14 Barack S. of Bloomberg NASA Library of Congress Chair in Astrobiology at the Library of Congress. And some of the others who will be there is Linda Billing, consultant for NASA, Eric Chasen, astrobiologist Harvard, Brother Guy Consolmagno, astronomer from the Vatican, Iris Fry from Tel Aviv University, Mark Lupiciella from NASA, Jane Mainshine from professor at Arizona State University, Lori Marino, neuroscience expert, Carlos Marcil, Nova Scotia, Margaret Race from Mountain View, California, SETI, Dirk Schals Makus, professor in the School of Environment at Washington State, Seth Shostak, also from SETI, John Trophagen, anthropologist and professor, Department of Religious Studies at University of Texas, Douglas Vakoch from SETI, and Clement Vidal from EuroDevo Universe. All right, so there you go. That's who's going to be there. It's coming up. Again, the date of this event is the 18th and 19th of September. And now continue on with the idea of disclosure. This says what countries disclose UFOs and alien documents. Updated as of March 2014. The UFO disclosure is not confirming UFOs are real. It is formal knowledge of extraterrestrials' presence throughout the universe by prominent global nations, space agencies, and religious institutions. Anyone careful enough to connect the dots can clearly see that we've been on a path leading to disclosure for some time. It says Educating Humanity has assembled 25 of the best UFO alien disclosure interviews that can be found anywhere. Here's a link to those. And here's a list of countries and organizations that have partially or fully disclosed UFO or alien information. Those that are in litigation to disclose all or specific files are countries that have released significant aspects of UFO and alien encounters. Alright, so we have a good list there. And we do have some areas where the United States has released some things, but it doesn't come officially from our government sources. Alright, moving on. Here we have a sighting. This was over Canada. It says new amazing footage of a bright UFO recorded in the daytime sky above West Kelowna, Canada. Okay, here's what we're looking at, this object here, and where are we at? Here we go. This is the area. We're watching closely, it says. There it is. See it? Just coming across the sky. So that is the sighting here, shot out from the clouds during the forest fire in our neighborhood. Okay. And one last, this is a crop circle. Crop circle that was, we haven't seen this one yet. This was from the 17th of July near Roydon in Essex, UK. New amazing video footage of a recent crop circle. Okay, this one's very interesting looking. There's lots of different parts to it. And as you can see, it's a very long crop circle. Oh, look, that's who made the crop circle. Just kidding. Just thinking maybe they're tagging it with their names now. Okay, there you go. That is our UFO news for today. Stay tuned. I will be back momentarily.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Underground is where they live. In the bases that are secretive. We're not supposed to know where they come from or where they go. And if you ask our leaders today, this is what
they will say. They can't confirm or deny. That's their job. It is to lie. All right, we're going to jump into a little bit of understanding who are some of the puppet masters that are out there, or those who want to be the puppet masters. You've heard the term Illuminati? Well, that's what this is about, Illuminati. So, let me read a little bit to you here. 10 things, top 10 things you shouldn't know about the ubiquitous Illuminati. Warning. The following information is not suitable for anyone who would like to remain blind. At the same time, this article is especially not for anyone that is certain they know it all. If you plan on having the answers handed to you, then please hit the back button. There's nothing here for you. Moving forward, everything listed below is meant to only lightly touch on each topic and requires further research on the reader's behalf to know the truth instead of just believing what one source has to say. All right, if you've spent any time, it says if you're ready to take the red pill now, then let's explore together exactly how deep the rabbit hole goes. Okay, I know you've heard a lot of this stuff before because we've spent time looking at the Illuminati at some point in time, and I'm sure that you've looked at basically the wisdom on this planet is very, very old, and ancient societies have evolved throughout time. And these societies of illuminated individuals who were often illuminated in more esoteric ideals and understandings of the planet, their mystery schools and their organizations would use symbols and things of this nature. Well, as society evolved, and we know how corruption unfortunately creeps in from time to time to different societies, they come in, they creep in, and they take this over. They pervert things. And that's really what happened. So what the Illuminati has evolved to is not anything like what you might hear about if you read books and understand that this Illuminati, this illuminated beings that existed a long time ago are not the same ones who are trying to dominate the world right now. Not the same mindset. Okay? So first thing is we have to understand that. So when we look at symbols and things that are used today, we have to understand that their origins don't belong to those who are using them today. So when you see all of these, for example, here, let's take a look at the first one here. Okay, first one, look, we got all these individuals here, copycats, doing the same thing. What are they doing? They're covering their eye. Why? Because they're not even thinking about what they're doing. And some of their publicists saying, do this. It gives the idea, the impression. So these are just basically pawns of the game. Okay, there's a lot of pawns that are out there. And things get put out, ideas get put out. So you think, uh-oh, this is all part of the Illuminati. It's bad, bad stuff. Well, what they're trying to do with it is, but the original intention of these things, it's like the swastika. The swastika is not a symbol that Hitler created. It was a long time before Hitler. It was a symbol that represented peace. But Hitler came and perverted that symbol because he used it. He flipped it around, used it, and now people look at the symbol and that's what they associate it with. But that's not the original meaning of it. It's how it is with many things. It says the all-seeing eye with the triangle over the top of the unfinished pyramid. This has been used symbolically in various ways. Ironically, however, is the fact that the official symbol for the public Bavarian Illuminati was the Owl of Minerva, and is said to represent wisdom and its ability to see in the dark, not the all-seeing eye or pyramid. See? It was the owl, not the pyramid. Okay, then you go down and says, so then question, how did it become so unanimous today that it was their spiritual symbol? And it's because they follow copycats. Copycats. You see how everyone's just copying because it's cool to copy, man, to do those things. Okay, look at them. It's cool for them to flip the devil horns because they don't understand what they're doing. On behalf of these hand symbols, again, we see something that was originally perceived as being good with positive meanings with Buddhist, Jewish, etc. cultures, but at some point during the history, all that slowly came to represent the opposite of what they once stood for. See, there's the Buddhist doing this here. Temple. Now, of course, there may exist a number of reasons behind why any of these symbols could get constantly repeated today and throughout history, whether because people are drawn to the mere mystery of them or simply copying others without assigning a new specific meaning to the symbols. Okay, and then you go down, just copycats, copycats, copycats. All right, bloodlines, very important. Understanding the Illuminati, not that as they've evolved today. Here we got George W. Bush. Look at that. If we look at his bloodline, he's connected with Vlad the Impaler. Not really a surprise there. He's also got connections to Barack Obama, Dick Cheney. All right. Something for you to look there. Okay, we see a human self-sacrifice. It's part of the process as well. See all the images here. We got the little owl. We got the sacrifice they do to the big owl, where all the male leaders around this country and around the world get together for some big naked fest that they do out there, worshiping this owl. And then there we go, copying ancient Egypt until today. Here's where they're taking symbols and trying to pervert them, so on and so forth. All kind of individuals. It says hit list. It's time to wake up and count the number of people that have been tried to stand against the Illuminati. Okay, their mission, New World Order. That's it, New World Order. We've heard about this before, so they've been slowly working to implement this. They're putting their signs in place. Remember, this isn't the true group of illuminated ones. Behind the scenes, they're the spiritual masters that are still out there. This is the fake group that's trying to pervert you to believe that they are the ones. This is the false religion, the Antichrist mindset. Okay. Here we have the Georgia Guidestones. Some say this is Illuminati connected, that it says what they actually want to establish their order. Humanity under 500 million. Okay, and very last down here. Says the truth behind Satan, Lucifer, Baphomet. Fear will always suppress and enslave the masses until they learn how to rule themselves with power of love. As long as humanity looks towards others to rule them, they will be continuously enslaved. Love is the answer. Okay, and if you recall, there's a devil character in the Tarot that we've looked at, and we see that past him there is symbols that show an illusion. You could see in Washington, there's a lot of things. Here's Washington. Here's the symbol of Baphomet. Okay, so they really try and try and try to make themselves very demonic-like. You can see, and they're playing out something. So just be aware that when you hear the term Illuminati, it doesn't mean always the same thing. Okay, the Illuminati, as we hear them today, have become an organization that is set on world domination. But a long time ago was a much different idea. It was about passing spiritual ideals down to the planet, about passing information and wisdom. So things change over time. Okay, things change over time. All right, I want to jump in today to our subject of Atlantis, which we'll be looking at on Wednesday. So I've got a schedule going now. We're going to follow for some time. Monday will be Kabbalistic studies, and they'll all start about this time. Tuesdays, Book of Enoch, and when we get through that, we'll just go through other books of the Apocrypha. Wednesdays will be on Atlantis, or Lost Civilizations once we get past Atlantis. Thursday, right now we're going through the Bringers of the Dawn. We'll continue to do that. And then Friday, Jesus Fridays. So, Atlantis. Last week, we took a look at this information here from the Edgar Cayce Institute Research. All right, we looked through some of this here, so I wanted to make sure you had this link available handy. Talks about different experiences. In August 2002, British researcher Andrew Collins renewed interest in the search for Atlantis with a stirring lecture at the annual Egypt and Ancient Civilizations Conference at Virginia Beach. His book, Gateway to Atlantis, proposes the major remaining portions of Atlantis are in and around Cuba, especially in the area where possible underwater ruins were discovered in 2000. Okay. And then it says, well, we hope the ruins reported off the extreme western tip are remnants of Atlantis. Our research indicates that the formations lying on the bottom might be something else. Okay, in 2001 and 2, Edgar Cayce Foundation funded a 640-kilometer square satellite imaging project in the area around Bimini. And they found 2 straight lines were seen off northeast Bimini. And then here about a dozen circles off South Bimini were spotted by satellites. Alright, so I want to jump on to another site here because we went over this one last week. This is a site called the Lost Continent, Atlantis. The idea of a lost but highly advanced civilization has captured the interest of people for centuries. People, or perhaps the most compelling of these tales, is the story of Atlantis. The story appears again and again in books, television shows, and movies. Why did the story originate, and is any of this true? The story of the lost continent of Atlantis starts in 355 BC with the Greek philosopher Plato. Plato had planned to write a trilogy of books discussing the nature of man, the creation of the world, and the story of Atlantis, as well as other subjects. Only the first book was ever completed. The second book was abandoned partway through, and the final book was never even started. Plato used dialogues to express his idea. In this type of writing, the author's thoughts are explored in a series of arguments and debates between various characters in the story. Plato often used real people in his dialogue, such as a teacher, Socrates, but the words he gave them were his own. In Plato's book, Timaeus, a character named Critias tells about an account of Atlantis that had been in the family for generations. According to the character, the story was originally told as his ancestor Solon by a priest during Solon's visit to Egypt. There had been a powerful empire located in the west of the Pillars of Hercules, what are now called the Strait of Gibraltar, on the island of the Atlantic Ocean. The nation had been established by Poseidon, god of the sea. Poseidon fathered 5 sets of twins on the island. The firstborn, Atlas, had the continent and the surrounding ocean named for him. Poseidon divided the land into 10 sections, each to be ruled by a son or his heirs. The capital city of Atlantis was a marvel of architecture and engineering. The city was composed of a series of concentric walls and canals. At the very center was a hill, and on top of the hill was the temple of Poseidon. Inside was a gold statue of the god of the sea, showing him driving 6-winged horses. Around 9,000 years ago, before the time of Plato, after the people of Atlantis became corrupt and greedy, the gods decided to destroy them. A violent earthquake shook the land, giant waves rolled over the shores, and the island sank to the seas, never to be seen again. So is the story of Atlantis just a fable used by Plato to make a point? Or is there some reason to think he was referring to a real place? While at numerous points in the dialogue, Plato's character refers to the story of Atlantis as genuine history and it being written within the realm of fact, Plato also seems to put aside the theory that a lot of detail about Atlantis that would be unnecessary if he had intended to use it only as a literary device. On the other hand, according to the writings of historian Strabo, Plato's student Aristotle remarked that Atlantis was simply created by Plato to illustrate a point. Unfortunately, Aristotle's writings on the subject, which might have cleared up the mystery, have been lost eons ago. If we make the assumption that Atlantis was a real place, it seems logical that it could be found west of the Strait of Gibraltar, near the Azore Islands. In 1882, a man named Ignatius Donnelly published a book called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. Donnelly, an American politician, had come to the belief that Plato's story represented actual historical fact. He located Atlantis in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, suggesting that the Azores represented what remained the highest mountain peaks. Donnelly said that he had studied zoology and geology and had come to the conclusion that civilization had begun with the Atlanteans and had spread out throughout the world as the Atlanteans established colonies in places like ancient Egypt and Peru. Donnelly's books became a worldwide bestseller, but researchers could not take Donnelly's theory seriously as he offered no proof of his ideas. As time went on, it became obvious that Donnelly's theories were faulty. Modern scientific surveys of the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean showed it covered with a blanket of sediment that must have taken millions of years to accumulate. There was no sign of a sunken island continent. Are there other candidates for the locations of Atlantis? People have made cases for places as diverse as Switzerland, or the middle of Europe, or New Zealand, in the Pacific Ocean. The explorer Perry Fawcett thought it might even be located in Brazil. Recently, a research team led by Professor Richard Freund at the University of Hartford had claimed that they had found evidence that the city may be buried not under the ocean but along the coast of Spain in the marshlands of the Nada National Park. Geological studies have shown that at one time this marsh was a huge bay connected by the Atlantic Ocean. The team, using radar technology, digital mapping, and satellite imagery, believes that they can see signs of a ringed city that once occupied the bay with canals similar to those described by Plato. There is evidence that a number of tsunamis have swept over the area, over the entrance that Freund thinks is the one that destroyed the city. After the disaster, survivors may have moved inland to create a number of what Freud thinks are memorial sites to Atlantis. Other scientists have explored the idea, do not agree with Freund's conclusions, although they admit that a city by the name of Tartossus occupied the area around the 4th century BC. Freund believes Tartossus and Atlantis may just be different names for the same city. As far back as the 1920s, historian Adolf Schulten had suggested that Plato had used the real city of Tartos as the source for his Atlantis legend. The strongest evidence for the real Atlantis, however, is not in Spain, but closer to Plato's home in Greece. The idea started with K.T. Frost, a professor of history at the Queen's University in Belfast. Later, Spiridon Marinitos, an archaeologist, and A.G. Galampoulos, a seismologist, added evidence to Frost's ideas. Frost suggested that instead of being west of the Pillars of Hercules, Atlantis was east. He also thought that the catastrophic end of the island had come around not 9,000 years before Plato's time, but only 900. If this was true, the island of Atlantis might already be a well-known place even in Plato's time, the island of Crete. Crete is now part of modern Greece and lies just south of Athens across part of the Mediterranean Sea. Before 1500 BC, it was the seat of the Minoan Empire. The Minoans dominated the eastern Mediterranean with a powerful navy and probably attracted tribute from other surrounding nations. Archaeological excavations have shown that Minoan Crete was probably one of the most sophisticated cultures of its time. It had splendid architecture and art. A code of laws gave women equal legal status to men. Agriculture was highly developed and an extensive irrigation system existed. Then, seemingly in the blink of an eye, the Minoan civilization disappeared. Geological studies have shown that an island, now known as Santorinus, located just 80 miles to the north of Crete, a disaster occurred that was very capable of toppling the Minoan state. Santorini today is a lush Mediterranean paradise consisting of several islands in a ring shape. 2,500 years ago, though, it was a large single island with a volcano in the center. The volcano blew itself apart in massive explosion around 1500 BC. To understand the effect of such an explosion, scientists have compared it with the most powerful volcanic explosion in historic times. This occurred on the island of Krakatoa, in 1883. There was a giant wave or tsunami 120 feet high, raced across the sea and hit neighboring islands, killing 36,000 people. Ash thrown up into the air blackened the skies for 3 days. The sound of the explosion was heard as far away as 3,000 miles. The explosion at Santorini was 4 times as powerful as Krakatoa. The tsunami that hit Crete must have traveled inland for over half a mile, destroying any coastal towns or cities. The great Minoan fleet of ships were all sunk in a few seconds. Overnight, the powerful Minoan Empire was crushed and Crete changed to a political backwater. One can hardly imagine as a catastrophe more like Plato's description of Atlantis' fate than the description of Crete. Many of the details of the Atlantis story fit with what is known about Crete. Women had relatively high political status. Both cultures were peaceful and enjoyed unusual sport of ritualistic bull leaping, where an unarmed man wrestled and jumped over a bull. If the fall of the Minoans is the story of Atlantis, how did Plato get the location and time wrong? Galen Poulos suggested there was a mistake during translation of some of the figures from Egyptian to Greek, and an extra zero added. This would mean 900 years ago became 9,000, and the distance from Egypt to Atlantis went from 250 to 2,500. If this is true, Plato, knowing the layout of the Mediterranean Sea, would have been forced to assume the location of the island continent to be squarely in the Atlantic Ocean. Not everyone accepts the Minoan Crete theory of the story of Atlantis, but until convincing case can be made for some other place, it perhaps remains science's best guess. It says, according to Plato, the temple in the center of Atlantis was dominated by a statue of Poseidon driving 6-winged horses. Okay. Very interesting. And there you have it. Well, actually, no, that's not it. I want to show you something else here. Here's a movie for you to watch. It's a documentary. It's an hour and a half, an hour and 32 minutes in length, but I'm going to leave that for you to watch. And it's called Atlantis, the Lost Continent. So, there you have it. There's our study of Atlantis for today. Next week, we'll certainly get into something else on there for you to explore. But definitely a very fascinating topic, and I know that there are many souls on this planet who have memories of Atlantis, memories of that time period. So something certainly existed back then, and it's always interesting to see what the modern day science is finding in that regard. All right, we're going to move on here. We're going to move on. This next piece, I got a comment I need to make before we move on to the next piece. Every day people watch the mainstream news, and as I'm out and about in the world where I'm at, I see people are watching Fox, they're watching MSN, they're watching CNN. So I just need to tolerate it. I listen and I understand that this is the stories that are the lies that are being told to the American public, and so what have you. So one of these individuals that I get to hear is Bill O'Reilly from time to time, and Bill O'Reilly he's not a very honest man at all. And yesterday on his show he was talking about these polls, and they did the polls, and one of the polls was about how many Americans believed Obama was born in Kenya. And then once it showed the results, then he went on with his spiel to debunk the whole idea. Of course, everybody knows that he wasn't, blah, 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 following the party line. And then afterwards, he had a poll that how many people think that the government had prior knowledge of 9/11. And he went on and debunked that one again. But then he said a comment after that that really kind of irritated me, in which he said, these people that believe that 9/11, that the government had inside knowledge, these people that believe that hate America. I happen to be one of those individuals, and I love America. And everybody that I know that is part of the 9/11 truth movement loves America. You know who we question about America and if they really love it? Bill O'Reilly. We don't think Bill O'Reilly loves America. We think he's a traitor. We think Bill rides the line of being a terrorist. So we don't take him serious as a news journalist. So it just irritates me that so many people listen to this man spouting his lies because he's a gatekeeper. He's a gatekeeper for all of the corruption that's going on out there, just like the other journalists. Otherwise, he would have thrown some tough questions at Obama, but he doesn't because his head is so far up Obama's backside, just like the others, that he just does what they said. And then for all of his toughness, when he went to that interview, boy, what a coward. So Bill O'Reilly is just a joke when it comes to news programs. He's not a news guy. He just reads what's there. He's a bully. He's a thug. He's a male version of Rachel Maddow. And, they all just get on there to deceive you. And so deception, this whole Illuminati agenda, it all ties in together. There's a lot of deceivers out there, a lot of gatekeepers. And we really need to be aware of who they are. Because if not, people are going to flip on the television. They're going to listen to these liars telling lies that are only hurting people. What I hope is on the moment when Bill O'Reilly has that come to Jesus moment, when he comes to understand all of the lies he's been telling, I hope that moment occurs when there's a camera on him, when he is on the air, so everyone can see that. Same with all of them. Same with Rachel Maddow. Same with Wolf Blitzer and Cooper and all of the other ones and all these mainstream news agencies. All of them. Anyway, that's just my little spiel. And I did that because I'm about to go into this story here that has to do with some more cover-ups. Okay? This is a story from In5D. It's called Moon Landing Hoax Uncovered. Now, you know about the moon landing hoax, right? So let's get into this. Well, there are many people who question whether or not the United States actually landed on the moon or not during Apollo 11 mission in 1969. This new previously unreleased video shows irrefutable proof that this landing was hoaxed. Speculation infers that no spacecraft would be able to make it through the Van Allen belt. It thus confirms that the stumbling block to their success was the lethal radiation from the Van Allen radiation belt. Since the same equipment was used on the subsequent missions in the 40 months that followed, none of them could have gone to the moon. They only increased their proficiency at staging them. According to NASA, the astronauts would have received minute doses of radiation while traveling through the Van Allen belt. Whether this is true or not, the video footage shows the astronauts still in Earth's orbit on the same day in which they allegedly landed on the moon. If they were still in Earth's orbit, it would have taken an additional 3 days to reach the moon. If you want to jump ahead to the previously unreleased video footage of this hoax, go to the 3204 marker of the video. The name Apollo, similar to all of the other sun gods before and after him, including Krishna, Horus, Orpheus, Bacchus, Osiris, Dionysus, Buddha, Hercules, Adonis, Ormuzd, Mithras, Indra, Quetzalcoatl, and Jesus. In Esoteric Studies, H.P. Blavatsky wrote in the Esoteric Character of the Gospels, finding then that Janus, the solar god, the son of Apollo, the sun means initiator and the opener of the gate of light or the secret wisdom of the mysteries, that he is born from Krishna, esoterically Chris, and that he was a Christos, through whom spoke to God, that he was finally Ion, the father of Ionis, and some say an aspect of Ecclesias, the son of Apollo. The common and the valid argument of the moon landing hoax is the appropriate use of lighting for some of the photographs. NASA's explanation stated that they were uneven landscapes and subtle bumps on the moon that created the illusions of multiple light sources. You be the judge. Another compelling argument is that there is a lack of stars in this alleged video of the Earth. Jay Weiner explains in the following article. Authors Joseph Farrell and Henry Stevens both have shown us undeniable proof that Nazi scientists had developed advanced flying saucer technology as early as 1943. These authors also show us that the U.S. government brought these same Nazi scientists into this country in order to build these highly advanced flying machines. Furthermore, they believe the idea that aliens from outer space are invading the Earth is a clever cover story concocted by NASA to hide the technology. Many sources inside the military-industrial complex have related to me that after John Kennedy was shown the flying saucer technology early in his presidency, he realized that the advances in technology promised by the flying saucers could solve many of the pressing problems of the world. He saw that releasing this exotic technology would point the way towards cheap and environmentally friendly energy, among other things. Soon after seeing the flying saucer technology, JFK made his famous speech asking NASA to land a man on the moon before the decade was out. Many insiders believe that this was a plot by JFK to get NASA and the secret government to release their saucer technologies. Since it was obvious to everyone that standard rocket technology could not get man to the moon and back, JFK may have thought that NASA would be forced to release the knowledge of the technology behind the flying saucers in order to fulfill his vision to get to the moon by the end of the 1960s. JFK's ploy was therefore intended to free this advanced technology from the insidious hands of the shadow government. After the assassination of Kennedy in 1963, NASA began the plan that would solve the problem that JFK initiated. This new plan would allow NASA and the shadow government to keep the saucer technology secret and still make it look like standard rocketry had taken man to the moon and back. Somehow, someone high up in the shadow government decided to fake the entire series of moon landings in order to conceal the United States' extremely new and advanced Nazi technology, both from us, the citizens, and our enemies. In some ways, NASA's position on this was understandable. We were in the middle of a Cold War with the Soviet Union, but we really want to show the Russians did we really want to show the Russians what we had? Following is provided in the video description. According to William Casing, a NASA contractor for Apollo, a classified interdepartmental memo rated the odds of a successful and survivable manned lunar landing on its first attempt at 1 in 10,000. That is why returning men to the mission looked so dejected, rather than triumphant at their press conference, as they were blackmailed into lying about the alleged greatest accomplishment of mankind to the detriment of their own souls. Okay, here's another anomaly was uncovered during the Apollo 15 mission where the same or identical backgrounds were used in different places. You've got the same background there, same mountain, lunar module, no lunar module. Okay. So, what do you think? What do you think is the question? And I know, in this day and age, who would be dumb enough to believe that we didn't go to the moon? You know who? This guy right here. I have researched the subject quite a bit. You've heard the song, We Never Went to the Moon. Asked the question over and over, did we really go to the moon? Did we really land on the moon? One thing that I know, having spent many years studying the subject, there are a lot of anomalies. There are a lot of things for us to question about the moon landing. So this article that Greg wrote, very appropriate, because these are all very important questions, yet they are just the tip of the iceberg of what's out there. Anyone who spends some time studying the subject understands that what they were shown and the reality are two different things. Two different things. Okay? It is also known that the pictures that came back from Apollo 11, anyone who has spent time studying knows that they have all been doctored. So the question is, why were they doctored? If we truly went to the moon, why were they doctored? Now, another theory, which is a possibility, is that we did get up there, but that aliens said not to come back, and so we haven't gone back since. But actually, the stories say that we did go back, so we disregarded what the aliens said anyway and went up there. So something in that story seems to be fishy, in that we were told not to go, but we went anyway. You know, there's definitely more than meets the eye with the story. I don't know the whole answer. All I know is the American people are being lied to about the subject. Now, the other day, on the anniversary, NASA came out with this bit of information that right here, it's a NASA probe sees Apollo 11 moon landing site. Oh boy, the problem, this is it. This proves it all. But let's look at this article a little bit, shall we? It says an amazing new video created from data collected by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter gives space fans a new look at Apollo 11's landing site 11 years later. So we're watching a video that was created from data. Okay, we're not watching the actual, we're watching a video created from data. Remember that. It says the new video, which was created from data, shows a 3D view. Okay, you get a 3D view how? With animated 3D software. So they used something, they had data to create a video, a 3D video. Let's look further down in this article. Animators used a 3D model of the lunar module for the video because in the photos from an oblique angle, the lunar module appears flat. Uh-oh. Can't have their lunar module looking flat or fake, so we better put in another fake one. But we'll put in a 3D fake one because most people won't figure it out. Right. Anyway, something for you to think about. I also included this link here called Wagging the Moon Doggy. There's many parts to this and many pages to this if you really want to look at the subject of the moon landing. Check this out. Spend some time, spend several hours looking at this info, and you'll have questions that you didn't have before. Maybe not. Maybe it'll answer some questions. All right, anyway, let's get on to our channeled message today. This comes to us from Jesus.
Roam the divine cosmos freely. Jesus, July 22nd, 2014, by John Smallman. Within the illusion, time expands and contracts. It is unreal and unreliable, and yet as you experience it, it appears to move in a regular and linear fashion from the past, with all its memories, momentarily and continuously through the present, and into the uncertainty of a future that you try to forecast and pin down. And then something quite unexpected occurs. And that is one extremely good reason for living in the now. If you make a point of living in this now moment and dealing with events, situations, issues, and problems as they occur, relying on your intuition, the wisdom of your real self, all will flow far more smoothly for you. Trying to second guess what may happen tomorrow, next week, or next year intensifies the levels of stress that you experience through living in the darkness of the illusion, darkness because the light of God's love is hidden from you by the cloak or fog of the illusion. To see clearly, you have to leave the illusion and all its concepts and logic far behind you. All the inspiring insights that the great minds among you have discovered over the eons have been revealed to them when they were not anchored by the limits that the illusion imposes upon you, but when they were as it were roaming free through the cosmos of their unlimited minds, ignoring all the preconceptions and cultural beliefs that may have suggested that what they were seeking was an impossible dream, unreal, a myth. It is your nature to roam the divine cosmos freely, unfettered by logical human thought that invents rules based on inadequate understanding, which then severely limits your creative abilities. Rules restrain and limit you unnaturally. They are, however, very convenient aspects of the illusion where separation seems substantial and tangible, and they provide a framework that ensures, for instance, that people driving motor vehicles do not, on the whole, collide with each other because they are all following the same rules in a rather crowded environment. That aspect of rules is very useful as you struggle with the stresses and anxieties of daily living because it provides guidelines that enable you to be reasonably certain that your personal safety is assured. What has happened over the eons is that many of the rules and regulations have become an inflexible and unquestioned overlay to all that you do, rather like an open prison, severely restricting your creative abilities in the form of imaginary blockages to progress. It is a bit like being in a room with many doors or exits, all but one of which are wide open, and you can only see the one that is closed and think that you are therefore unable to leave. In the last few decades there has been enormous growth in the numbers questioning all the rules, and this is very healthy. God created you free. You chose to restrict yourselves by building the illusion and enclosing yourselves within it, and finally you are questioning it on a massive scale and coming to a collective realization that it is an asylum for the insane. It was insane to build the illusion. It was a totally unrealistic and impossible attempt to separate yourselves from God because He is all that exists, and therefore separation from Him is impossible. He created you in love and gave you everything that He had: infinite love, infinite wisdom, infinite knowledge, infinite power, and endless creative abilities and opportunities, and you chose to leave them all behind and enclose yourselves in a state of unreality where you eschewed those gifts to engage in the competitive destruction of one another, endlessly throughout the eons. It matters not what you achieve through your constant and determined human efforts: wealth, position, recognition, power, because all of these are ephemeral, they do not and cannot last, and the very limited satisfaction that they provide fades rapidly. Your true home is with God, you know that, and nothing else can ever satisfy your intense need to be one once more with Him. It has taken a long time for you to come to that realization and make the collective choice and decision to engage once again with love so that the illusion can dissolve back into the nothingness from which you imagined it into existence. Every moment you spend within, in your quiet inner sanctuary, intending to be loving, compassionate, and accepting, accelerates the rate at which the illusion is crumbling. All the spiritual channels, all those in the spiritual realms, keep stressing the vital importance of attending to your personal spiritual practices daily because that is how you awaken. It expresses an overriding intent to awaken, to know and experience the reality and the oneness that is your real and eternal nature. It is what everyone who ever engaged with the illusion has sought and is seeking. Deep within every sentient being is the knowing that you are one with God, the source from which all that exists flows in endless love. By choosing to give credence to the illusion, you have hidden that knowing from yourselves, and it is that apparent loss that is so painful for you. Nothing can be satisfactorily substituted for that all-encompassing sense of acceptance that oneness and the love that is its nature provides. Nothing. And there is only oneness, there is no beyond or outside, no past or future, there is just now at one with Source. When you awaken, as you will, the joy and wonder that replaces all your doubts, anxieties, and fears will enfold you in a state of unimaginable ecstatic bliss. Go within daily, hourly if you can, and bring it to fruition, because that is what you are here to do. Your loving brother, Jesus.
All right. Good message from Jesus. As always, brings us to our meditation for today. So go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. Exhale again. And again, another deep breath. And exhale. And just imagine yourself with each and every breath becoming more relaxed. And each and every breath going deeper and deeper into your subconscious. And as you go into your subconscious, you begin to explore what is bouncing around there. You begin to find and understand that there is information that has made its way through your subconscious from the outside world. Information you didn't know was getting in because it was coming through channels that you weren't paying attention to. And as you look around, you see there is mistruth, lies, deceit, corruption in this information. And you realize that you pick this up as you walk through the world, listening to the televisions and the radios and the messages from people around the planet. And so you understand that all of these things are just illusions to the reality of the world, and they all are rather out of place in the subconscious. So you just send love and light to them, and they dissipate very easily because there is nothing real to them. And in that you understand and learn a great lesson. That these illusions that exist in this world, the lies, the deceits, the mistruths, have nothing to truly support them and keep them in place. And they can very easily be dissolved simply by shining light into them. And you understand at this point that life is a battle between light and dark. That there are those who want us to shine brightly the light into life, to illuminate the darkness that we may see truly. And there are those who simply want there to be darkness, to believe that the illumination comes through the dark, which is only an illusion. So we understand who those gatekeepers, who those liars, who those are in the world who are trying to deceive us. And we simply imagine separating themselves from all of humanity. We imagine all of those individuals, world leaders, security forces, bankers, anyone that is corrupt and deceiving the people. Let's just imagine them all off by themselves on their own island, away from everybody. And we see that they can all fit on one island because we understand that they are small in comparison to the mass population of the world. And when we truly see them on their island, and we realize how small a number they are, we actually become empowered even more, strengthened. And we just turn our back to that island, knowing that there is no need to pay attention to them anymore, and we begin to share with each other truths, love, positivity, faith, hope, courage, and we experience the world in a different way. And as time continues on, pretty soon we just move on with life without them. And they fade away into nothingness. And all that is left are the good people of the world doing the good things that they want to do. So let's imagine the world as this really good place, with all of those who are liars and deceivers and warmongers. Let's just imagine them gone. So there are no leaders around the world, and that each and every individual is responsible for their own leadership. And as such, each and every individual understands that the true nature of life is expressed from God. So let's imagine a world where we're all striving to express the faith, the love, the hope, the happiness, the truthfulness. Imagine that this is a reality. And if you believe this is true, claim this for yourself by saying, I claim this reality for my life. And I deserve this reality, as do all of the other good people of this planet. So let that idea hold in your mind's eye a world of truth, love, faith, God. And let's just hold that in our mind's eye as we go throughout the course of this day. Let's bring our conscious mind to the present moment on a count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Hold it. And exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's the show for today. Thank you very much. Thanks for indulging me on my little rants there. Every now and then I just got to get that out of my system, because it just builds up too much, and I want to make sure that you're seeing the lies that are out there so that you're not tripped by them. Because if we see them, we just move around them. World's full of many wonderful things, my friends. We just need to stay positive, keep thinking of all the positive and good things we want to have, and just have faith. And everything we need to create this world in the way we want, it will happen. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.